You know, I assume he's referring to the Republican Party when he talks about oppressors. And I've met Mitch McConnell. And I don't believe Mitch McConnell ever owned a slave, ever supported Jim Crow. In fact, Mitch McConnell and I talked about economic empowerment. I've met the Republican leader in the House, Kevin McCarthy. I don't think he ever owned a slave. I don't think he's pro-Jim Crow. And he and I talked about choice in public education. Some people who have been historically oppressed will stand with their oppressors, says Charles M. Blow, the angriest black man who has a regular column in America. Quote, after all that Donald Trump has done, all the misery he has caused, all the racism he has aroused, all the immigrant families he has destroyed, all the people who have left this life because of his mismanagement of a pandemic, still roughly half of the country voted to extend this horror show. Let me be specific and explicit here. He's being specific and explicit, just in case you miss it. Let me be specific and explicit here, he writes. White people, both men and women, were the only group in which a majority voted for Trump, according to exit polls. To be exact, nearly 3 out of every 5 white voters in America are Trump voters. It's so unsettling to consider that many of our fellow countrymen and women are either racist or accommodate racists or acquiesce to racists. End of quote. Now here where I'm going to remind you of what Chris Matthews said. Chris Matthews, a true and blue Trump hater, formerly on MSNBC Hee Haw. He no longer has a daily show on MSNBC Hee Haw, but he had one for years. And he said most white people would never vote for a racist. And that's why he said Trump reaches out to black people. He said it's not even so much for black people, it's for white people. Because most white people would not vote for a racist. And so Chris Matthews, who hates Donald Trump's guts, here he is refuting the whole notion that it would be Donald Trump's best interest, best political interest, to be perceived as a racist, to be giving a so-called dog whistle to racists. A Trump hater says it wouldn't make any sense because most white people would not vote for somebody if they thought they were a racist, end of quote. Obviously, Mr. Blow does not believe that. I wonder how many white people he works with at the New York Times. Did he ever go to lunch with any white people that he thinks are oppressors? And he points out that a larger percentage of every racial minority voted for Trump this year, more for Trump this year than they did in 2016. Quote, not only did a majority of white men vote for Trump, so did a majority of white women. I told you before, the distinction is between married women and single women, but I'll continue. White women vote for Trump at higher rates than all other women, despite the fact that Trump has spent his first term, indeed his whole life, denigrating women, end of quote. Sigh. The man has denigrated lots of people. He's an equal opportunity denigrator. You remember what he said about Jeb Bush? Remember what he said about Rand Paul? What he said about Ted Cruz? What he said about Nancy Pelosi? Rub some dirt on it, Charles. Get back in the game. Don't be such a whiner. Quote, all of this to me points to the power of the white patriarchy. The white patriarchy. Trump's brash, privileged, chest-trumping, and alpha, he didn't say chest-thumping, he said chest-trumping. Just don't want you to know that. I'm reading this right. Trump's brash, privileged, chest-trumping, and alpha male dismissiveness and in-your-face rudeness are aspirational to some men and appealing to some women. Listen to this one. This is for blacks and women. Some people who have been historically oppressed will stand with the oppressors and will aspire to power by proximity. End of quote. Honestly. Can you imagine how angry he would have been had Trump won the election? So, if you voted for Trump, you're a racist, or you're acquiescing to a racist, says Charles Blow. Even Van Jones, who attributed the 2016 victory to whitelash, credited Republican outreach to blacks and Hispanics. Even Van Jones did.
This country is not what we thought it was. I don't care who you are.
It's for you, Charles Blow. This country is not what you think it is.
This country is not what we thought it was. I don't care who you are. Nobody predicted this outcome. We predicted it was going to take longer, et cetera, et cetera. But it turns out that the outreach from Republicans to African Americans, Latinos, was effective.
If Mr. Blow is listening, and I don't suspect he is because he blocked me, by the way, on Twitter. Mr. Blow, if you're listening, once people stop thinking of themselves as victims, they're going to start asking questions about the quality of their schools. They're going to stop asking questions about economic policies that undermine jobs like $15 minimum wage. They're going to start questioning policies like porous borders on the grounds that unskilled illegal aliens compete for jobs that otherwise would be held by unskilled black and brown Americans. And the existence of illegal alien labor means that employers can pay unskilled black and brown workers in this country anywhere from $18,000 a year, an average of $1,800 a year less than they otherwise would pay. It's a lot of money. This is a country that voted for Barack Obama, who received a greater percentage of the white vote than John Kerry did 4 years earlier. And by the way, Donald Trump got a smaller percentage of the white vote than Mitt Romney did 4 years earlier. How do you get up in the morning every day and feel that anybody who disagrees with you is racist, or is siding with a racist, or is siding with an oppressor? Are you oppressed? And by the way, he criticized me and said Larry Elder is just saying what he needs to say because he needs to get paid. Of course, Mr. Blow works for the New York Times for free. What does New York Times columnists get? $400,000 a year? At least that. I've been writing a column since April 1998. Believe me, I don't get anything close to that for my column. This guy writes for the New York Times and bitch, moan, whine about racism, racism, racism. Meanwhile, in his own life, what does he do? Works hard. It's hard to get a column in the New York Times, and he's got to keep the column, which means he's got to produce on a regular basis. And isn't that really the game? The Brookings Institution, which is a left-wing think tank, said this: you need to do 3 things to escape poverty, Mr. Blow. Finish high school. Don't have a kid until you get married, and get a job. Do those 3 things, you will not be poor. Don't do those 3 things, there is an excellent chance you will be poor. And by the way, the Brookings Institution did not say that formula only applies to white people. I'm Larry Elder.